Before this was a cemetery, before it was fenced, before it even had a name, it was just a patch of Florida wilderness. And in 1898, one man chose this acre for love. Not for profit, not for progress, for love. When most people think of Florida, they think of theme parks, beaches, traffic, neon. But tucked deep in the pine scrub of Pasco County, there's a single acre that quietly outlived an entire town. No storefronts remain, no schoolhouse, no post office, just headstones. Today we're stepping into Loyce Cemetery, a place born from grief, anchored by devotion, and sustained by generations of pioneers who refused to let the wilderness win. To understand the cemetery, you have to understand the town it served. In the late 1800s, Pasco County wasn't suburbs and highways. It was frontier. Dense pine forests, mosquito-thick air, prairies stretching toward nowhere. Families like the Sumners, Hudsons, Hancocks, Gillettes, Baggs, and McNatts carved homes from palmetto and sand. They planted citrus, raised cattle, built lives where comfort did not yet exist. And somewhere in that wild expanse, a settlement called Loyce appeared. Not a boomtown, not even a proper town, more like a determined dot on a map. Post office established January 12, 1885. Population in 1886, 17. Mail delivered twice a week. A church, a one-room schoolhouse. That was it. For its families, though, Loyce wasn't small. It was everything. When the railroad came through in the late 1800s, hope surged. J.C. Brown, once called the Daddy of Loyce, operated a sawmill, barrel factory, and major railroad tie business. A 1914 paper described the town as the life, claiming its citizens were too busy enjoying ribs and prosperity to worry about economic depressions. But railroads giveth, and railroads taketh away. The post office closed in 1920, and slowly, Loyce slipped into memory. All that remained was 1 acre. The cemetery predates the town's final breath. In 1898, Rosa Gillette died. We don't have long diaries or detailed accounts of her life, but we have the land her husband gave for her death. David Gillette, pioneer, landowner, settler, donated 1 acre of his property in memory of Rosa. That acre became the Gillette Loyce Cemetery. Imagine the weight of that decision. In a place with no grand cathedrals, no marble memorial parks, just scrub and sky. He carved sacred ground out of wilderness. A 1997 historical marker tells us the Gillette Loyce Cemetery is named for David Gillette, the landowner, and the early nearby settlement, Loyce. In 1898, Mr. Gillette donated the 1 acre site in memory of his dear wife, Rosa. In grief, he ensured permanence. And in doing so, he accidentally created the last surviving landmark of a vanished town. Listen, if you love stories like this, stories hiding in quiet corners of Florida, make sure you're subscribed, because these places won't tell their stories on their own. And if there's a forgotten cemetery or lost settlement near you, drop it in the comments. Some of the best stops we've ever made started with a viewer tip. Walking through Loyce Cemetery feels like reading the cast list of a ghost town. Adcox, Brown, McNatt, Riles, Ruis, Margaret Ann Jane Taylor Ruis Riles, gone in 1914, tied directly to those old Tampa newspaper accounts. Dina and Melton Adcox, born in the 1880s and 1890s, lived through the rise and the fading. Every stone marks a life that endured heat, isolation, sickness, hurricanes, economic swings, and still stayed. And then there are the veterans. The historical marker notes war between the states, Spanish-American War, subsequent conflicts. William J. McNatt rests beneath a heavy cast iron Southern Cross of Honor, marking Confederate service. From Civil War battlefields to the Florida scrub to this quiet acre, one battlefield traded for another. And near him, a faint stone believed to mark George Vinoyce, 1831 to 1865. The year the Civil War ended. We don't know his story, but we know this. National history lives here, not in marble monuments, but in pine-shadowed silence. To reach Loyce Cemetery today, you leave behind the highways. The roads narrow, the traffic fades, the air changes. And then it appears. Simple fencing, clearing, about 124 memorials scattered across 1 acre. Some stones stand strong. Others are barely legible, worn soft by Florida humidity and time. Spanish moss drapes the oaks like lace veils. The ground smells like pine and damp earth. It doesn't feel abandoned. It feels held. You don't find ornate statues here, no towering mausoleums, just honest markers for honest people. Standing there, I couldn't help but think about how many towns I've visited that left almost nothing behind. But Loyce left its people, and somehow that feels like enough. Its post office, schoolhouse, sawmill, all erased. But Loyce the cemetery remains, because one man, grieving his wife in 1898, chose permanence. David Gillette didn't set out to preserve history. He set out to honor Rosa, and in doing so, he preserved an entire community's memory. This acre became an anchor. A final chapter, a quiet rebellion against forgetting. Across Florida, across America, places like this still exist. Small, unassuming, holding stories that refuse to die. And when we stop, when we read the names, when we listen to the wind in the pines, we become part of keeping them alive.